Hi, John Benton here with Benton Photography. I had a friend ask me recently how to change the color of someone's clothing to basically match whatever you want. Now in Photoshop, there are several ways you can do this with selective coloring, and I'm going to show you 3 ways. First way is built-in, the color replacement tool. You click on that brush, and then you choose whatever color you're looking for. So let's say red. Okay, well that's nice. You can color in the pants a red color. There you go. And let's see, we can make the donkey blue. Let's make that brush a little bigger. You can do that, and it pretty much keeps the textures fairly well. The problem is that the colors aren't very subtle and you can't really adjust it after you put it on there. So that's the one thing I don't really like about it that much. But it's a quick and easy thing to use. Now the method that I like a lot better involves making a new layer. And let's choose purple. And you can name this layer whatever you want. John's pants. Alright. And why didn't that? Oh, because I had this still selected. So you want to make sure you select the regular brush tool when you're doing this second method. So you're painting that in there. It's going to look pretty heavy-handed. And just for instance, you want to have this opacity at 100% at the top and the flow at 100% there, and I have the hardness all the way down. That is my preference. Now over here you want to change this from normal to overlay, and now you got the texture back. See? Big difference. And if you want to get the edges a lot cleaner, just take the eraser tool and kind of clean that up. You want to make sure you have this layer selected, however. So now these pants are a nice shade of purple. Well, that's pretty cool. And you can change the color a bit by changing the opacity, so you can make it more subtle, which is why I like this method a lot better. You can come in here and change the color, especially if it's desaturated and not too dark. You can pretty much do it on anything. And for here, you'd want to make a new layer. And I suggest making layers based on the person and maybe even like the clothing if you want to get specific about making the shirt a different shade than the pants or the shoes or what have you. But if it's all just, let's say it's all one color, so we're all going to do purple. So for Susan here, we're just going to take the paintbrush with the purple, and you're going to do overlay. And I'm being pretty messy, so you're going to want to make sure those edges are nice and tight. Looking a lot cleaner. And you don't want the skin like that. Yeah, then you make a new layer, and we'll color up Tiffany here. And you can choose whatever color you want from here. And make sure that's overlay again. And overall, it's a fairly simple way to go about it. Then you can make that hue a different one if you want, lighter, darker, what have you. Now the problem you run into with this, however, is that it gets more difficult to color in things that are pretty dark. Like this elbow pad, you cannot tell that I'm even coloring it purple. So the best way to go about that is to take the lasso tool, go along the edge very finely, Alright. Make sure you have this selected, the background layer, before you Control C, Control Copy. If you're using a Mac, it's going to be Command C, Control Copy, Control V or Command V to paste it into that new layer. And then when you do this, for some reason it always deselects it. So that little elbow pad is still there. And now it's selected. We're going to reselect the layer selected. We're going to reselect this area that we had with the lasso tool. And now you're going to paint it gray. That way it'll be easier to color this in later with a different color. Make that overlay. And now it looks pretty much exactly the same as it did before, and it's supposed to. So now duplicate this layer. And you can turn that background copy off for now if you want. And now we're just going to focus on, and you want this still to be selected, we're going to focus on this layer right here. We're going to make some adjustments. We're going to go to the levels, and we're going to try to make that a bit more gray. And this is going to be different depending on what you're trying to, what dark piece of clothing you're trying to make more gray. You can tell there's a little bit of color in there. We'll take care of that in a second, because now we're also going to go to image adjustments, hue, saturation. Okay, desaturate that, and you can brighten it up a little bit more. There you go. And now choosing that top layer again, you're going to be able to actually make a new layer. Control, make sure that one's selected. Control Copy, Control V, and make sure that's on top of that one. Now we can make this whatever color we want. So you can do the paintbrush. Choose, let's choose purple, keep that pretty consistent. You know what, undo that, make sure that's reselected. That way it can stay inside the lines and not worry about it. And choose overlay. Now you have a purple elbow pad. Alright, we can do the same thing with Tim's sweatshirt here. Make a new layer. Tim's sweatshirt. Going to select this with the lasso tool. Now you can always change the selection or tighten it up by doing Refine Edge. Kind of smooth it around the edges a little bit, which is kind of nice. Or you can also just go in there and take some of that away. Oops. Now, if you want to be really specific, I like to use the pen tool. It's just like making the lasso tool, but you kind of draw a lot more against the edges. Alright, and for this we're doing the same thing again. Make sure the background layer is selected because that's where that shirt is. Control Copy, new layer, Control V, reselect, paint bucket, gray, make that overlay. Alright. Then you choose the background again, image, adjustments, levels. And we don't really need to desaturate this, but I'm going to see if it needs to be brightened a little bit. And just a tad. You don't want to lose too much of that texture. the saturation down, brought a little bit of that yellow off. Alright, Timmy's sweatshirt. Control copy, new layer. Control V. Sweatshirt color. It might be easier. Well, don't forget to reselect that. It might be easier if you put this into a folder. It's just called Timmy. So you can be all organized if you got a group of people that you're trying to color. So you can take the paintbrush or the bucket tool, and we're going to choose purple. And get that selected. Make sure that's overlay. And there you go. These are different types of blending modes. But the best one to use is overlay. Then you can change the opacity on that a bit. And if you also want to choose another color you've already used so it matches, you can just use the eyedropper tool. So you just have paint bucket or the brush selected, and on the PC you just hold down the Alt key, select that, and then paint that in. And these fairly match. And there you have it. That's how you change someone's clothing color into a different color.